we have done certain measurements so that later we will be sure that our 3D to 2D conversion is as close as it gets. Now, an important point we want to come back to is actually what is the idea of the shoe last. We are all clear the shoe last doesn't look like our feet, but it gives the shape of the shoe. So that means somehow there has to be a relation between the shoe last and the feet. Now when it doesn't look the same, the question is what has some parts and points to match with our feet. They have to be equal. We are talking about a size of 42 currently. And we have said the standard last length is 280 millimeter. A general basic rule is that for 280 millimeter last length, the feet is 260 millimeter minus 20, or we can say 3 French size or 2.5 English size. That is the general rule. In this particular last, this distance will be excess. So I can tell that's why we are talking about standard. Standard doesn't mean that it has to be like that. But the rule is also saying that for a shoe, minimum 2 sizes has to be extra length and gap. So that means our foot, let's assume, is 260 millimeter. So it will come somewhere up to here. Obviously, we need that toe gap. And when we come now to the correspondent points, the counter, the pitch should align with the foot. That's quite obvious actually, no? When you stand in the shoe, you need to have the grip in the back. Otherwise, when you walk, you leave it, it moves the shoe, the foot moves in the front, that means the shoe doesn't fit. So that means these 2 points need to align to your foot. That is a basic standard. Then important, and that's most likely the most important part, is we come to the mid-band point. The mid-band point here is actually the same like in your feet. When you take the feet, okay, you have the inside the lateral joint and you have the outside joint here, okay, and this line here, which we have also drawn now on the last, here is the center, that is the mid-band point. So that means mid-band point is not the important part here for the foot. So now what is important is the volume, the width of the midline over and on the bottom. This part here, this volume, this is called the girth. This has to be equal then to your foot. So if your foot, for example, has 250 mm girth, yeah, this volume of the last has to compensate that. It cannot be 260, then it is too big. The foot will slip in the front. If it is 240, most likely it is much too tight. So that is one very, very important part. Another part is the instep. Here's the instep in the last, actually. So there should be an instep for the foot also. But that actually is different. This point in the last as an instep in your foot will be called an instep, but that is approximately 1.5 sizes below the instep of the last. It will be approximately here. And why is this? Actually, once you look at the feet, this important part here, this so-called instep, you can feel here on the top there is a
bone.
Okay, that bone here is the so-called the instep. So we are measuring usually the circumferences here around. For a shoe, that also called instep is a little bit unlucky, but the instep basically will be about 10 millimeter higher, will be something like 10-12 millimeter higher. It is about here. Now why is that actually? If that would be equal, obviously the circumferences can't be bigger than it will be again to loose. But it has to be higher than that so that the shoe is closing the foot. Okay? So that's why that instep is higher. In the closed shoe like Derby or Oxford or so. So it is called the same, but when you take measurements from your foot or from your foot or from the customer, you will have two different measurements here actually. This is smaller here, it's a different point than that one. Okay? So this is important to understand, but for the design part, it doesn't matter too much at the moment. Okay? So that this instep part here, this line here is very important. Okay? So here this instep is for our shoe. Okay? And this line here, whatever is the circumferences of the instep, has to be always be increased by about 1.5, about at least 10 millimeters. Because this distance here shortens this line is longer. So this is there. When we are measuring this, we can measure from the shoe last the same line. Then it should be the same. Okay, so we can measure this by going 1.5 sizes down and then measuring this, and we have the instep. The instep for the shoe fitting is lesser crucial than the mid-vamp point. Why is that? Because many times we are having laces here, or we have some elastic or velcro, so we can adjust a little bit, not very much, but a little bit we can play, a little bit open the lacing, put it a little bit tighter. We all have done that before. Of course, in the perfect fitting shoe, that should be fitting 1-to-1. Yeah, that is clear. Okay, but here we can say, yeah, okay, it's not so critical. But is this vamp, this width, this is called the shoe width. Right? This is called the shoe width. This girth is the shoe width actually. Okay? If that is not matching, the whole shoe will never fit. The reason why, when it is too big, the foot will slip to the front. If it is too tight, the bones here, the metatarsals inside and outside, will get squeezed in. Okay. Right?
So I do have a doubt. Suppose this is 8 size, 8 UK.
Yeah.
So if every person who has 8 UK size do have the same width from the vamp side?
Of course it doesn't have, but that is a different problem. That is why shoes doesn't fit.
To every
We have thousands of shoes in the shoe shop, and nothing fits. We are trying one, we are trying one, we are trying one. So what actually means is that shoe size doesn't mean it's fitting. Only that you are having maybe the correct length. Shoe size is only about the length. Yeah? Doesn't mean that the width is fitting. And even when the width is fitting, the shoe can be, feet can be still narrow. It can be very wide. There are so many variations, and that's the point. We are short on variations for footwear in the industry. We are everything making on standard.
Majority of the people who are this
standard. But what means standard? Standard means practically it is a fact that 60% of the people having even different feet. Left and right is different by length and by width. Some is maybe very minor. In my case, it's just 2 feet. It's 2 feet difference. I'm unable to wear any normal shoe from the shop. But I'm not alone. And especially by aging, this is changing. The foot is changing all the time. So we are making standard shoes, but the industry makes standard shoes actually for customers that doesn't exist. And then people are saying, yeah, I have 42, but I buy a 44. Or I have a 42, but 41 only will fit me. Or in this and this brand, very good, 9 size is excellent for me. I have a 9 size. No, you don't have a 9 size. You're using a 9 size. That's an entirely different concept. Yeah? That's an entirely different concept. That concept is correct. If 9 size is fine for you, it's 9 size. But don't think that tomorrow you can come to AG shoes and 9 size is fitting to you. No, maybe and maybe not. It's all different. So that's what we have to learn actually, that here we are working with standards. But standards, I'm not standard, you are not standard, you are not standard. We are all individuals. Right? So that doesn't mean that everyone has to go to a shoemaker and getting bespoke shoes being done, because that is neither practical nor possible. But we should understand how to adjust basically our shoe concept. We cannot just simply go by the idea we are having a shoe size. No, we are using shoe size. My shoe size is actually a 9. When I'm buying sport shoes, I have to go to 10 or 10 and a half because of the difference. And then for the other foot, I'm wearing double socks. It's the only solution. At least I can run. I can't make myself sport shoes. I need EVA soles, I need all that. Where shall I get that? Same with every other customers. Sandals I'm usually wearing only 8.5 because my feet are quite flat. So in a normal 9 size, they are swimming inside. No, this is how it is. So the point here is again, standard or individual or whatever, if the feet is not matching at the midpoint with the girth and of course with the length, it cannot fit, whatever you do. Okay? Right. Part